So hello folks, welcome back to announcements. I realized just looking at my calendar today that y'all have a literacy narrative due on Friday. And so maybe I want to talk to you a little more about that and hopefully make it be successful for you and make it less painful for me. So um, for I'm going to just go through something that I did face to face and see if it works any better than anything else I've tried. So let me share my screen for a second and I'll kind of walk you through what I did with my classes a couple of weeks ago. They're a little bit ahead of you, really. So share that. All right, so I generally do a pre-class workshop in my face-to-face classes. And for this particular one, what I asked them to do was take 5 or 10 minutes and just talk about what makes stories good. Um, think basically about that first question. What do stories need in order to be effective? What elements, if they're not there, make the stories boring or unsuccessful? You can think too about college level writing, but I think you've already done college level writing for me for the most part. And so I think those expectations are probably pretty solid for you from the illustration essays. But if your classroom teacher wants to pause this for a second and have you write down some things, that'd be great. I'm going to go ahead and go on though, because this is what I did next. Let me share that part of the screen with you. All right. Sorry, so I need to do one more thing here, which is go over to this. So I'm going to share a video with you. This is the video that is in your course. I apologize if you have put yourself through it already. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but I want you to watch a little bit of it now. And then think about as you're watching, is this successful as a narrative? And why or why not? Is it successful as a video essay? And why or why not? And is this successful as a reflection on literacy? So again, I'm going to play this through the video here right now, and then I will ask you to maybe think about this because I think it will help. So do that. Paste and go. Share this tab instead.
My name is Michelle Kohler, and this is my literacy narrative. I'm going to break it up into chapters, which will explain major turning points in my life. Chapter 1 is early literacy, where I am learning letter, phrases, and words through the concept of culture, faith, and family, where I went to a public school named West Elementary on the in Michigan. I was very fortunate to grow up in a middle-class white town with lots of resources of rich literature, where we would go to the library routinely. Chapter 2 is formative literacy. So the next part of my life is where I expand my basic word knowledge through faith, culture, and family with the notion of religious practices, where I was put into a private school and had language and content taught to me by the Religious Order of Nuns. The next chapter of my life is when I start deciding what my future directive and goals are as I pursue through high school.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there, folks. I can't do any more of this. Can you? So think about this for a second while I get out of this, and just think about how successful is this as a story. How successful is it as a literacy reflection? What we found in my face-to-face classes, if your teacher wants to pause it here and let you talk about it first, that's great. But for me to just go on for right now, chapters, what? Like, one of the things that makes a literacy narrative extremely ineffective, in my opinion, is when someone is trying to trace their entire life. And y'all are high school students now, and I've got mostly dual credit students, but y'all have had a lot of literacy events in your life, right? So it's really kind of, there's no way to make that really compelling. And that's kind of what she's tried to do here. She's tried to say, and you can tell that whatever prompt she was given to do this thing, she had to keep talking about culture, faith, and family. So she says the words, but other than mentioning nuns, I don't hear anything like that. And I certainly don't hear story. I mean, even that's like the closest thing to a character in this whole thing. And it's like, well, what order, or what, there might be a story there about a nun who was really influential on her, but we don't hear that story in this particular thing. So, going on, so what you need to do is not this. What you need to do is write a narrative where you are choosing a particular moment where something changed for you. And I apologize if I've said this in a previous video, but I just want to get it out here again, because even going through this for 3 weeks in my class, I still got kind of vague, all over the place things. So one of the best ways that you can invent material for this, and I'm going to actually go over here now and do this. Let me share my screen again, is to go to your course. And yeah, here we are. Okay, so we're going to go up here, go into your course information module, and go to Professor Down Alternate Readings and Resources, and click into that. Literacy narrative is at the top. So I'm clicking in here, and the very first thing here is an essay by Bernice Olivas. And so I'll click into that too so you can see it. And she talks about, why, I need to share this tab instead. There you go. She talks about why you would be writing a literacy narrative in college at all. It's obviously not something you're going to write in your day-to-day job or something, but all writing is storytelling in a sense. And so that's what she talks about here, and she makes the case for it. And then she says how to write. And this is what I want you to do. Create some literacy profiles. And she gives you some examples here. So they're kind of like little sketches. So what I would suggest that you do is write several of these, maybe 3 where it's showing a relationship with literacy where you felt empowered at some point, and maybe 3 where you did not feel so empowered. You don't have to dwell on negative things, but a lot of times conflict makes a really good story. So if you have something that was really kind of formative for you, that maybe explains a little bit why you're the way you are now, that is what you need to be trying to find, and then use that as your experience and your story. So my expectation for the literacy narrative is that you're going to kind of, the way I would suggest you outline and structure this is start with an introduction that is a general reflection on your point about literacy, and then go into the story itself. Be as focused and detailed as you can. Use all the story elements of dialogue and characterization and setting and sensory detail, all of those things that make stories good. And then the last part of the essay is a couple of paragraphs on the reflection on the significance. How did this event change you? Notice I said this event. I do not want to see what is in that video. I do not want to see you telling me about, even your entire 8th grade year. And, if there was a specific teacher that was instrumental in changing your relationship to literacy for good or ill at that point, find an example or 2 and make it a couple of scenes at most. That's going to keep you out of trouble. It's going to make you where you're being a lot more specific and a lot less vague about this. So that's what I would suggest that you do. And I guess I just want to tell you kind of about, so it's really hard to be specific when you're a freshman or when you're anyone, because you don't want to be wrong, right? So, and there's a lot of consequences for being wrong in our society right now. So what you need to learn to do though is to sort of lean into that discomfort and get past that. Because what we expect in academic writing is not just that you write us a paper to show us that you read something or that you understand a text and you can summarize it. That's not what we're doing anymore. What we're doing in college is showing connections and showing it sort of ways of looking at events and at issues where it's not just the blindingly obvious, right? It's you're connecting your interpretation of things to specific ideas, specific texts, specific things that people talk about. And so even though our discourse in our society right now is truly dysfunctional and hopefully will get better, but you need to learn how to do that. And that's just a kind of habit of mine. It's really important. The other thing I'll say here to you is this. Please, I really appreciated on the papers that I got that everyone pretty much put an AI statement on there, and I encourage you to do that again. I'll tell you that AI will write you something that looks like a literacy narrative, but will not be successful, and mostly because it will be a very vague, from the beginning of time. And I remember sitting with my grandmother, and then I remember going to preschool, and that is not a literacy narrative that's going to be successful. And a lot of times there are things within it that make me wonder. So if I have any, it's not that I want to get you in trouble, but I want to encourage you to do something uncomfortable here, which is to write this yourself as much as possible and let it be bad. Let it be, because you can revise it. So maybe put less pressure on yourself. Maybe the profiles actually help you, because those can definitely be bad, and then you can build on them and make something about it. But if I believe that it's possible that you might have used an AI, I'll want to talk to you about it. And that's not to get you in trouble. It's because either you used it and we need to talk about why you made that choice, or it's so vague and kind of robot-like. And I think I've said many times, maybe to you and I know to my other classes, that y'all have been trained to write like robots. And so if that's what you're doing, especially if like I see something that looks like a 5-paragraph essay and it's just you're trying to and make it be a literacy narrative, that's not going to be successful. But it's the kind of thing an AI would do. It's the kind of thing a robot would do, and it's the kind of thing you've been trained to do. So I'm telling you very clearly that that's not what I'm looking for, and hopefully that will be enough. So that these will be fun to read. This is actually my favorite essay of the course, is this one, because I think if you do it right and you put your really look at your experience and look at who you are now, it can be really valuable for you to make some choices about how you want to go forward into the future. So I'll give you that. So I guess let me know if you have any questions. I will look forward to the essays this week. And I guess that's it. Thanks.